In this new episode of our series dedicated to safety in the refrigeration and air conditioning industry, we will analyze a real-life case that shocked the industry and changed the way work involving flammable refrigerants is carried out today. We will travel to China in the year 2018. During what appeared to be a completely routine workday, two technicians were performing service work on a split air conditioning system that used R32 refrigerant. It was not a large industrial installation or a complex mechanical plant. It was an apparently ordinary service intervention, the kind that thousands of professionals perform every day, disassembling components, repairing a pipe, or carrying out maintenance on an air conditioning system. What the technicians probably did not consider at that moment was that R32 belongs to the A2L safety classification, according to ASHRAE. This classification identifies refrigerants with low toxicity but a certain degree of flammability. Although R32 is significantly less flammable than hydrocarbons such as R290 propane, it is still capable of burning when specific conditions of concentration, oxygen availability, and an ignition energy source come together. For this very reason, maintenance procedures for equipment using this refrigerant differ from those traditionally employed with non-flammable refrigerants such as R410A. However, during that intervention, a chain of incorrect decisions silently began to unfold. The first mistake occurred when the refrigerant contained in the system was released without following the proper recovery procedure. Instead of removing the refrigerant using a recovery machine specifically designed for this purpose, the R32 was vented directly into the atmosphere in its gaseous state. At first, nothing appeared to be out of the ordinary. The gas is colorless, and its presence is virtually impossible to detect with the naked eye. However, the danger had already begun to develop. Numerous studies on leaks involving A2L refrigerants have shown that flammable concentrations are generally not distributed uniformly throughout an enclosed space. Instead, localized areas tend to form where the concentration can become much higher than the average concentration measured throughout the room. These accumulations typically occur near the leak point, inside equipment cabinets, suspended ceilings, condensate drain pans, or areas with poor air circulation. Contrary to many people's beliefs, R32 does not quickly rise or disappear instantly. Because it is denser than air, the refrigerant began moving toward the lower areas of the room and accumulated around the work area, especially inside the equipment housing and near the floor. Shortly afterward, the second mistake occurred. The technicians did not create cross-ventilation or use mechanical exhaust fans to disperse the refrigerant released. Doors and windows remained insufficient to provide adequate air exchange. As a result, the invisible cloud of R32 continued increasing in concentration around the work area. Under normal ventilation conditions, an R32 leak usually disperses quickly and loses its ability to ignite. However, when ventilation is inadequate, even relatively moderate amounts of refrigerant can remain for several minutes at dangerous concentrations, especially in confined or partially enclosed spaces. Minute by minute, the refrigerant mixed with the air until it reached an extremely dangerous range. For R32 to ignite, its concentration must be approximately between 14.4 and 29.3% by volume in air. Below 14.4%, the mixture is too lean to sustain a flame. Above 29.3%, there is too much refrigerant and insufficient oxygen for combustion to occur. However, within this critical range, the mixture becomes flammable. Subsequent investigations suggested that this is precisely what happened. Although the average concentration throughout the room may have appeared relatively low, localized gas pockets formed in the immediate work area, around the service valves, refrigerant tubing, and evaporator, which easily exceeded the lower flammability limit due to the lack of forced ventilation. The stage had now been set. Only an ignition source was missing. Risk analyses conducted for flammable refrigerants show that ignition sources are far more common than most people realize. In this case, the ignition source came in the form of a conventional electrical power tool. By using equipment that was not designed for operation in potentially flammable atmospheres, a small electrical arc was produced. That tiny spark supplied enough energy to ignite the cloud of R32 that had accumulated within its flammable range. One of the most concerning aspects of this type of accident is that the energy required to ignite R32 can be extremely low. A single spark may be sufficient to trigger ignition when the refrigerant-air mixture falls within the appropriate flammability limits. What happened next was not a devastating explosion comparable to one caused by high explosives. R32 has a relatively low burning velocity compared to pure hydrocarbons such as R290 propane. As a result, the result was a deflagration, a sudden flash fire of extremely high temperature that rapidly propagated through the flammable mixture. Unlike a detonation, in which the pressure wave travels at supersonic speed, a deflagration propagates at considerably lower speeds. However, the temperature generated by the flame is sufficient to cause severe burns within fractions of a second, especially when people are standing close to the flammable cloud. The flash fire reached the two technicians before they had time to react, causing severe burns and demonstrating that even a refrigerant classified as mildly flammable can become a significant hazard when proper safety procedures are ignored. The subsequent technical investigation concluded that the accident was not caused by a single failure. Instead, it resulted from three consecutive errors that acted as links in the same chain: the improper recovery of the refrigerant, the lack of adequate ventilation, and the use of tools capable of generating sparks. The international impact of the incident was immediate. The accident became one of the most widely cited examples during the global adoption of refrigerants with low global warming potential. Manufacturers, technical associations, and standards organizations use this case to strengthen training programs on A2L refrigerants and to remind the industry that the transition towards environmentally friendlier refrigerants had to be accompanied by new safety procedures. Following the publication of the accident and the studies conducted by technical organizations and industry associations, safety protocols were reviewed and significantly strengthened worldwide. Among the principal measures adopted were a prohibition against venting refrigerant directly into the atmosphere, the mandatory use of refrigerant recovery machines approved for flammable refrigerants, the incorporation of portable leak detectors during work performed in confined spaces, the requirement to use certified tools designed to prevent spark generation, and the implementation of specialized training programs for technicians who handle A2L classified refrigerants. The accident occurred in China in 2018 left a lesson that remains fully relevant today. R32 is not inherently dangerous when established standards and procedures are properly followed. The real danger arises when confidence replaces procedure and when several seemingly minor omissions combine to create the perfect conditions for a tragedy. The analysis of the accident also highlighted the importance of the Swiss cheese model, widely used in industrial safety. According to this concept, a serious accident rarely occurs because of a single cause. Instead, it generally occurs when multiple protective barriers fail simultaneously. In this case, the improper recovery of the refrigerant, the lack of adequate ventilation, and the presence of an ignition source allowed all the necessary conditions for combustion to occur in the same place and same time. In safety, accidents are rarely the result of bad luck. More often, they are the consequence of a chain of errors that could have been interrupted at any stage. That is precisely why studying cases like this is not intended to create fear, but to train technicians to become more aware, better prepared, and capable of returning home safely at the end of every working day.